Okay, so good evening, everybody. This is the hustings for the Hunslet and Riverside ward. South Leeds Life are hosting these hustings as they have done for the past year. We decided to do it online again so that as many people as possible could attend. We have 3 candidates here from the Conservative Party, Labour Party and Green Party. They're going to introduce themselves in a moment. We're just going to go through some ground rules. So when a candidate's speaking, we'd like everybody to be on mute, including ourselves. We want to ask questions that have been sent in to the candidates, and we don't want a back and forth. So if you do have a question and you're spectating, if you go down to the bottom where the chat bar is and type your question in, I'll be able to see it and we'll be able to ask it for you. Is that okay? Right, we're going to give each person a fair chance at a question. You're all going to get the same questions. We're going to give each of you the same amount of time. However, if some of you have a shorter answer than others, then that is what that is. Is that all right? Perfect. So my name's Christine and I would vote in the Beeston Holbeck ward, which is why I'm hosting this one. I also run Cortley Community Centre. Our editor, Jeremy Morton, is in the audience, as is our other committee member, Linda. So if I go off, Linda is going to take over. Is everyone okay with that? And Stuart, sorry. So I'm going to give each of you about 1 or 2 minutes to introduce yourselves and say anything you'd like, and then we'll start with the questions. I'm going to go in random orders all the time, so the same person isn't always first, to give a fair shout for people to answer them honestly and to think about things. Is that okay? So if everybody's on mute, I will start with our current councillor, Councillor Paul Ray, if you'd like to go first with an introduction.
Good evening, everyone in Hunslet and Riverside ward. My name is Councillor Paul Ray, and I've had the honour of being your representative for the last 5 years over what has been an incredibly difficult period for our communities due to a mixture of Tory austerity, the pandemic, and the cost of living crisis. But over that 5 years, we've also seen significant improvements to our communities with the work that I've been doing with colleagues both here locally and across the council. And this is why I'm asking you to re-elect me for a further 4 years to continue that work on your behalf. Over that 5 years I've been in post, we've seen significant investment in our local parks. We've seen significant investment in new litter bins, restricting places where fly tipping happens, targeted enforcement work against companies that litter our community. We're working to reduce parking issues across the area, including with the employment of a civil enforcement officer, one of only 2 wards in the city to do so. I'm working on a variety of truly sustainable projects to help our communities contribute to the 2030 target to reach net zero, including the establishment of hundreds of mature trees and thousands of whips, and a variety of other carbon reducing intensity programs. I'm proud to be part of an administration that's helped to continue to keep our children's services as outstanding, keep our children's centres open, invest in new services, and I'm working really heavily with West Yorkshire Police to target some of our persistent issues, such as the drug crimes we have in our area and antisocial behaviour. A vote for me is to continue that work, to continue to bring in investment into our communities, and to make sure that you have a voice where it matters, at the table where decisions are made at Leeds Civic Hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ray. That was lovely. I think I'll go next to Owen, who is representative of the Conservative Party.
Hi there. My name is Owen Rutherford. I'm standing for the Conservative Council candidate at Hunslet Riverside. I'm running for council in Hunslet Riverside as I wish to improve the area to which I grew up in. I lived in Blyth my whole life. Most of my education has been in Hunslet. I went to Hunslet St Mary's Primary School, went to Ruth Gore, so I have truly been at the benefit of the previous candidate speaking before me. And I'd just like to first say that I do applaud these policies that he's put forward before. My plans for the area include obviously improving transport links to the city by putting more buses on, organising more public events such as near to where I live in Sturton, where particularly car boot sales are significantly popular. I also wish to encourage businesses to invest in our areas, particularly old derelict buildings such as the Mecca Bingo Centre, which is just recently closed down, as well as the Sun Inn and the pub that burned down a few years ago outside the Hunslet Mary School that I myself actually remember burning down. I wish businesses to encourage the area to bring more jobs to people, to help people grow themselves, grow and become more financially stable. As well as where I also work with Council, where I wish to crack down on antisocial crime. We do need to tackle antisocial crime in this area. These minor crimes will not carry significant criminal action, but can be significant impact on people's lives. If I was elected to council, I would encourage the council to put more police on our streets to prevent such crimes. It would be my privilege to represent Hunslet as your councillor and to work to improve our area. Thank you.
Thank you, Owen. Omar?
Oh, they both did pretty well. They got me scared. I'm new to this. So basically, one of the reasons for me standing is because I think it's really important to stand in the area you live in, to represent your area you live in, because everyone's crime rate is your crime rate. And South Leeds is very similar. So with the Hunslet and Beeston, I've been brought and bred up in Beeston. Hunslet, I see they have similar issues with the cost of living crisis, with the antisocial behaviour. And I think how we can attack that is, I've been very fortunate for the last 15 years to be involved in communities projects, such as I've run my own youth club as a volunteer for 6 years. We set up an American Youth Diner where kids could run it, and the money they made, just teaching work ethic. I think it's very important. So for me, prior to this, I always thought being a politician is just attending meetings, getting this done. But the reason I teamed up with the Green Party, because Ed, he gets involved. And I think that's very important. So when I've been on the same charity where I've also been a board member, I've also been the person running the youth club. And then from the board perspective, they did great work, but I understand when I was on the board, I was like correcting them, like, yeah, but you might have authorized this youth club, but this isn't getting done. And just by creating youth clubs, it was really, really cool. We got people into university, got people into jobs. I had it's achievements like that make it worthwhile. I had one gentleman that come to see me last month. He came to me when he was 14 and he's like, oh, you got me onto that job. Now I work for, I've got this specific job. I've got my own house. And, it's amazing feeling that. And I just think it's very important. And the reason a lot of people don't know much about me is because I'm really bad on social media. I just got a Facebook, and I was like I was talking to my colleague Ed, I was like, but if I tell everyone I've done this, isn't that showing off? But he's like, people got to know what you do. And I also think it's very important. I'm great at networking. As you can see, I like to talk a lot. The council has budgets that, sometimes as a council, like, yeah, we can't, but I've managed to contact local businesses to give free food out. I've contacted another local business, so they've had moments where they gave free bread and milk out. And for me, as a councillor, that's what I'd carry on doing, not just saying, okay, the council can't facilitate for this. I'll be like, okay, I'll find a way. I'll go to some businesses that are doing well, say, can you please help at moments like this? And that's it. And just my primary objective, like I said, is win or lose, it doesn't matter to me. Even if it's just to help people. And I think that if being a councillor accesses me to more possible funding, great. If not, I still want to be available to people. They can still, give me a call and just help people. And I think it's very important because I've grown up in an area, I've grown up in Beast. I love my community, and I've had many issues. I've seen my parents pass away, and people suffer these issues that we've got. And, and I love where I live, and I aim to live in South Leeds for the rest of my life. And yeah, that's it. Sorry, I don't know if I'm going over my minute, so I better be quiet. Sorry.
That's okay. So I will say, if some of the questions you've already answered, it would be good for you to go into more depth with them. Is that okay?
100%.
Right, so
anything.
Perfect. So like I said, I'm going to choose you at random, and Omar, I'm going to keep you on if that's okay.
Yeah.
And the first question is very easy. Why do you want to be a councillor?
So the reason I wanted primary objective is just to help people, and it's to help people with the cost of living, help the youth, and it's also be a voice for people, because I've been in a situation like now I'm just standing as a councillor. The amount of love I've had from the community, young, old people, because I've worked in the local shops, like the local chip shops, so people know me as, oh, that's all, man. They like the fact I'm approachable, and just to possibly help people. And as councillors, we understand you can't change the law, but you can stand up for people. And that's one thing I can guarantee. where people have issues, I'll definitely, you know, it could be anything. The police could have had an issue, and I'll definitely say, you know, stand up for them, and that's it. And just the primary objective is to help people. And I think, and I think that's for any councillor, regardless of what party you stand for. That's the reason you're in that position, to help your community and work together. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
Done it twice. Perfect. Sorry, had you finished?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Omar. I'm going to go to Owen next. Same question. Why do you want to be a councillor?
Well, I grew up in the area, as I said before, and I've been to the primary schools, I went to the nurseries here, and I've been to the high schools and the colleges, and well, most of the colleges here as well. And truthfully, as I probably share the same with, I just want to help people. I want to be obviously the voice for the community. And I might be a Conservative, but I'm elected your councillor. I'm not just a Conservative. I will raise your objections regardless of my party, regardless of what I stand, regardless of what the party does. If I'm elected your councillor, I am still your councillor, and I will continue to object your objections, regardless of whether I become an independent because of it. I will still try and help you in every way possible I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Owen. Councillor Ray, same question.
I think first and foremost, it is to help, but it's to do it in the way that actually delivers truly sustainable change. I moved to these communities 18 years ago. I lived in the ward for the majority of that 18 years. I've lived in both the city centre bit and on the border between Hunslet and Beeston. And I think actually having credible local knowledge and leadership actually matters. It's one thing to say you want to generate change and make things better. It's much, much harder to actually make it happen and for it to be truly sustainable. And I think the skills that I brought before I became a councillor help contribute that. I have a passion for learning. I have a strong determination to keep pushing myself to make sure that actually that people's priorities become my priorities. It's very easy for politicians to say they know what's right. Actually, it's other people's priorities which matter. And our job is to listen and to represent and make sure that actually we come to the best overall decision. And so I want to continue the work I've done for the last 5 years, which is to do that, to make sure people's voices are heard at Civic Hall where decisions are made, to continue to bring in that investment into our community, to improve things like the parks, and also fundamentally to be a full-time representative, to actually wake up in the morning at 8 thinking, how do I help people? And go to sleep at night thinking, how do I help people? Not have secondary business interests, not have secondary requirements elsewhere, to make sure that these communities are the front of the mind of the people that make decisions which affect tens of thousands of people of them. But ultimately, it's all to help. And that's why we're here, and that's why we elect people.
Thank you, Councillor Ray. So I'm going to now go with Owen first. Are you ready? The next question is, what are you most passionate about in your community?
I'm most passionate about encouraging businesses to come to the area. Hunslet sits on the boundaries of the motorway, which has access to Wakefield and different city centres of Leeds. I would really like for businesses to come to the area, and for local people who I grew up with and I know and I've grown up knowing them, to be able to go to work every morning, come home and spend time with their families, and not have to worry about the cost of living crisis, not have to worry about differences in how much money they have, or whether or not they can afford to get transport to the city centre. I want people to be able to local Hunslet to employ local people for their jobs, particularly Mecca Bingo. I want to encourage businesses there, as well as different areas as well that are derelict in Hunslet that really do need very much refurbishment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ray, same question.
What am I most passionate about? It's actually not about what my passions are about. It's about what other people's passions are about. You know, there's 33,000 people roughly that live in this ward, over 3 significant urban areas, about 30 sub-neighbourhoods, over 50 different nationalities, multiple religions across the income spectrum, social spectrum. And actually the job of a council is not to pick and choose what they think they're passionate about. It's to listen to the community they represent and actually see if what they want is doable. Does it work for the entire area? Is it sustainable? So you know, I could easily write the list of, I'm passionate about the environment, I'm passionate about youth services, I'm passionate about crime, I'm passionate about transport. But actually that's part of making sure other people's priorities are heard. It's what they're passionate about is what matters, not necessarily what I'm passionate about. What my passion has to be is to serve and to try and make sure that their priorities are heard and that we try and work on the problems and on the aspirations they have. So in a nutshell, I'm passionate about them, not necessarily what I'm personally passionate about.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ray. Omar?
Hey, so basically, one of the like I've made clear, one of the main passions is empowering people. So empowering the youth, exactly. So again, going back to when I was doing youth work, one of my students, shall I call them students, the youth clubs, he was, you know, a great boy, just needed a little push in the right direction, and now he's a teacher at Park Lane College. And so now, just by empowering him, how many kids he must be teaching, and he's, you know, he's passed that on to so many. And by doing that, and just by also, I'm passionate about engaging people. So, you know, we helped. Where we had one event where we called it, I don't know if it's Beeston Unit is official. You know, where we can bring all people, young people together, people from different ethnicities. You know, have meetings together. So then, by doing that, everyone in the community understands each other and you listen. And even by doing that, we had so many amazing issues resolved. For example, I had an elderly lady that was in her 80s talking to someone that was 16, and then together they were like, wow, we've never spoken to someone. And by doing that, because that's what the main objective is, the community, are the people that vote for you, the people that you're supposed to, regardless, sorry, even if they don't vote for you, and, you know, just empowering people, getting people together. And by doing that, we can make our safer, we can make our community a better place. Because like I said, I'm from the community, but I'm a strong believer of, the reason I started doing youth work was because instead of us saying moving out, you like when people, sorry, I'm not professional, but like, you know, people say, oh, let's move to a better area. But no, let's make our area better. Let's empower our people. Let's tackle antisocial behavior. Let's get them same kids on the street, get them into work, get them talking to elderly people, and let elderly people talk to them, and to understand, you know what, you know, we can come together and we can make Beast, and we can make Hunslet, we can make it great. So, you know, that's exactly my aim as objectives. Just yeah. South Leeds Life.
Thank you, Omar. Okay, Paul, I'm going to go to you. Sorry, Councillor Paul Ray, I'm going to go to you first. This is going to have to slightly adapt this question for you. How would continuing to be a councillor make a difference to the changes you'd want to make?
Because I get a seat at the table where decisions are made. And I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind. You know, we are part of a very large city. We have this conversation sometimes between being a local councillor and a city councillor. Actually, these communities are not an island. We're part of a greater whole. And I'm part of an administration that, despite austerity, despite the pandemic, despite the cost of living crisis, is continuing to invest in children's services and adult social services, is protecting the most vulnerable, is continuing to invest in our parks, is continuing to invest in our transport system, and actually continuing to be part of that, to bring the passion and the energy and the drive and the commitment I have to that decision-making process, the knowledge I have about the areas, and actually taking a much more sophisticated kind of approach to decision making. It's not just what sounds good on a leaflet, but it's actually about what truly delivers sustainable, real change for communities. And actually being in the position I am will allow me to continue to do that, and thus be sat there where the decisions are made to try and make sure that investment still comes in our communities, that the voices of these communities are heard and understood, and that we actually get the maximum and the best potential results for the people that live in Hunslet and the parts of Beeston and Leeds City Centre that I represent.
Thank you. Owen, the same question to you. How would being a councillor make a difference to the changes you want to make?
If I was elected councillor, as I share Councillor Paul Ray's point there, that I would be serving the community as the local government, the civic hall in town. I would personally want to help my area compete with our area significantly suffers from deprivation in some areas of it, and therefore I want to improve the whole of the area, not just some sections that happen to be closer to the city centre, therefore retailers will likely to put their shops there, and thus increasing economic growth for the people. I want people to have, in every single area of Hunslet, to have the opportunity, just the same as everyone else in the whole of the city of Leeds, to have the opportunity to go to work in the morning, to have to earn a good wage, and to live the lives the best they can do.
Thank you. Omar, same question to you, please.
So mine's, I totally understand and respect what Paul says, because it's like, so sitting at the table where decisions are made, but sitting at that table with the people, with my amazing community that I live amongst, sitting on that table with their viewpoint instead of just mine. And the fact that people, me running for this election, I've had hundreds of people come to me and say, we like the fact you're approachable, we like the fact we can come to you. So by taking them views, so like I said, when I was at when I've been a trustee and a director and I've worked at the ground level, so when I was on the board members, great hearts, they meant well, but when I was telling them, no, this isn't what people, this is what they want, and they were like, all right. And by doing that, by being where I am involved in the community as I am, I think that I can take them, that viewpoint from the people to the place where decisions are made. And like I said, and you can listen to the people, because people, you know, and I'm not taking what I think should be made, it's what the people should be made. And, you know, it's for the people, that's the ultimate goal.
Thank you, Omar. Okay, this is everyone's favourite question. You ready? It's quick fire, doesn't need a big answer. Do you live in the area you're going to represent? And Owen, we're asking you first.
I live in Belial, Middleton. I kind of on the border between Middleton and Hunslet. Did everyone hear that? Sorry.
Did you hear that? Owen lives in Belial, which is still in South Leeds. Yep. Omar, same question to you. Do you live in the area you want to represent?
Yeah, so mine's quite funny. So I've lived in the area I wanted to, I'm 32 years old, for 31 years. So now I live, I actually thought it did fall in my early until when I stood up for election. So I live in the street opposite. So that's the border. So in a way, I work and everything. So when I walk across the street, I'm in the area. When I'm not, so yeah, more or less, I'd like to say I do, but if I want to go by facts, it's I have to cross the road to get in the area. So yeah, I more or less, yeah. But
thank you.
Just in case Paul's going to scare me and fire facts and say,
okay.
It's the street opposite. I'm going to say, yeah, you're right, it's the street opposite.
It's okay. It's everybody's favourite question for the past few years, so we have to ask it. Councillor Ray, do you live where you're going to represent?
No, I moved out due to personal circumstances about a year ago, but I did live in it for 16 of the last 18 years in both the Hunslet and in the city centre bit. And I was actually on the border of the Beeston bit, and I'm about a 5 to 10 minute bus ride away, depending on how bad the traffic is.
That is a good question, isn't it? Sorry about that. Okay, so just let me scroll up. So I'm going to ask, I think we'll go to Omar first again. And the question is, why did you choose the party that you are going to represent?
Oh, that's actually quite easy. So prior to this, I always thought politicians, this is not taking a dig at any politician, just what I saw on TV. I just thought politicians are people that just wear suits, attend meetings, saying this who's doing. They're not hands-on. And mine was, there was actually something getting cleaned in my street, and it was Ed from the Green Party. And I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm just cleaning this up. I was like, oh, you part of some people? He goes, no, it just needs doing. So I thought I'll just do it. I was like, are you a politician? He was like, yeah. I'm like, and I was like, politicians do stuff like this? He's like, yeah, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed, you know, it's not just what we can do by contacting people. He goes, I like getting hands-on if I can. And then I followed him around for a good few months. He tired me out because he was just getting hands-on. Oh, this lady, oh, she's struggling a bit. Maybe we can help her this and this garden. And, you know, I was doing it. And that's what I thought. I thought, you know what? It'd be amazing to be someone that's from the community, for the community. And yeah, so that's what encouraged me to get into politics. So credit to Ed. You know, if he sees this, I'm I wouldn't be this nice to his face, but you know, he's encouraged me that, you know, a politician can be a person that from the people, and you know, you get that love and respect from everyone. So there.
Thank you. Paul, that goes to you next.
So mine's slightly more complicated because I'm actually representing two political parties. I'm representing the Labour Party and the Cooperative Party. I joined the Labour Party when I was 14 years old. I've been in it quite a while, and it was fundamentally because I believed in one of the main parts of our kind of pledge to communities, which is by our common endeavour we achieve more than we do apart. And it's about that fundamental belief that actually we are stronger as diverse communities that work together. And certainly the principles of the Labour Party are long and true to that over its history, including many of its great achievements, which generally transformed the country. In terms of the Cooperative Party, they have a great belief in a slightly more cooperative economic system, where we empower workers a bit more. So it's slightly different to the trade union movement to a certain extent. It's a lot more about worker ownership. They have been at the forefront, actually, of many of the environmental policies that many of the political parties here on today have actually adopted. That's been very much at the forefront of what they've been doing for many, many decades. And actually, the combination of those two political movements, one rooted in the sense of common endeavour, and one rooted in the practicalities of how common endeavour can actually transform economic and social situations for the betterment of people, has always rung true to me. And that's why I became a Labour Party member, and in later life became a cooperative member, and quite proud to be the only candidate who's standing in this election who actually represents two political parties.
Thank you. Owen?
I joined the Conservative Party at the age of, I think I was 15. I joined it. It was, I believe that was Johnson. I think it was just the start of Johnson's premiership. I've always been a big believer in people helping themselves, because it helps people a lot more. If you hand people too much, they don't do enough to give back to their own community. If you let people help themselves, they are much more satisfactory. They're much more happy with themselves because they've felt that self-achievement. I dream very much like, I personally like the idea of a conservative community, that we are all part of a large community, the big society, but we also need a different bit of altruism, that we need to pursue our own interests and have our own freedoms.
Thank you. So next question, I'm going to start with Paul. Again, sorry, Paul. Sorry, Councillor Ray. What is the most pressing issue you feel affects your area, or have been told so, and how will you help that?
It's always a good question in terms of that one, because it depends which area you talk about. You know, these are ridiculously complex communities. And certainly, for example, in the Beeston area of the ward, we have had the arrival of organised drug gangs, and there's a lot of work going on at the moment between the council, the Antisocial Behaviour Service, the Yorkshire and Humberside Serious Crime Team, and a variety of other partners to tackle the issues we have around trap houses, traditional drug houses, on-street dealing. We're about to bring in, after a lot of work, a public space protection order for parts of the area to help tackle some of that issue. In other parts of the ward, it's around air pollution and issues to do with congestion and housing. And in other parts of the ward, mainly the city centre, is actually around the sense of community and the very atomisation a lot of those communities face living in apartment blocks, and how we actually create and generate a sense of unique community in that really, really densely populated area. So I think to say, you know, what's the most pressing issue is really difficult. I have a list of probably about 200 pressing issues I have to deal with. And actually, one of the real tasks of a councillor is, particularly over such a diverse area, is how you deal with that multitude of competing and demanding demands on a day-to-day basis. So there isn't one, there's a lot.
Thank you. Omar, the same question to you. Probably from feedback that people have given you over the past couple of weeks, what's the most pressing issue you feel affects them, and how will you help that?
So I agree with Paul. There's many issues because the ward's big. There's many issues, but I also believe that there's a lot of issues are the drugs, the antisocial behaviour. And again, I keep stressing back to youth work, because again, when I was running a youth club at that time, there was zero funding towards it, you know, for specific for that, for where we was exactly. And I think by doing that, we can attack, and I hold stuff like that very close to my heart, because there's been people, young lads, young adults that I've grown up with, that they've passed away due to drugs and stuff like that. So I see that as a vital issue. And I think we can, you know, just workshops teaching kids that, you know, this is, you know, we can help you with going through stuff like this. We can help you challenge stuff like this. And even other issues that I have, like, so in areas like South Leeds, we have a lot of alcohol shops opening up. And I think, you know, just monitoring them maybe a bit, because like, I've seen, you know, personal circumstances where I've seen amazing individuals that had so much potential, you know, pass away due to alcohol abuse, and there could have been something special. And I just think in areas, especially deprived areas, people are, you know, because they're suffering so much, again, with the cost of living crisis, that's a big, and, you know, they turn to, you know, people turn to drugs, and just so workshops just to tackle people's behavior. And I think if we start young with the youth, we can channel it all the way up, because people just give people a reason, and also to teach people, because unfortunately I've come across, so I've been doing little surveys, and I've come across a lot of people that they feel like because we might not live in an affluent area, you know, we can't aspire to be something, you know, like we can't aspire to have a good career. And that's not true. We can. And that's why I've managed with a team of volunteers. So we're hopefully going to start some youth activities. So one of them's, you know, she was someone that at school was told, yeah, education isn't for you, and now she's got a PhD and she's a neuropsychologist. One's a barrister and they live locally. And just and I think just encourage people like that, and, you know, tell people no matter where you come from, sky's the limit, and we're going to help you get there. That's it.
Same question to you, Owen.
Oh, I completely agree with Councillor Ray and Omar's points there. There's definitely a range of issues, whereas it be in town where obviously lack of community, as Councillor Ray noted, whereas it be in some areas that are almost deprived and have not very little services to provide. They're just rows of houses, no businesses, and therefore no jobs. I think tying down to youth work as well is quite, as Omar mentioned, these youth work policies seem very, 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 very good in terms of tackling youth. And obviously the employment bit is also I want to focus on bringing local jobs to the area, because as a young person in the area, I find it quite hard to find jobs in my local area, apart from obviously the McDonald's on Hunslet Road. But you obviously have a lot of people a lot of people in the area, a lot of children who obviously might not be able to get to the youth areas, they might not be able to get to access all the services that Omar's providing, as excellent as they are. Therefore, if we have significant amounts of businesses in the area, they can employ these kids and allow them to grow their skills instead of doing antisocial behaviour, getting into drink and drugs, which will only affect them later on in life.
Thank you. So we're going to the next questions. So it's kind of generalised, but I suppose thinking about your party's policies, what is your main area of interest? And I will go firstly to Owen.
My main area of interest in party policies is education policies in particular. So I particularly like the Conservative education policies in terms of privatisation, academisation, and I want children of all areas, regardless of where they come from, to have an equal opportunity, to have meritocracy in all schools across the UK, across Leeds, and of course, if I get elected, across Hunslet, to be able to have equal opportunity to go into the job they want, regardless of their backgrounds.
Thank you. Councillor Ray, same question to you.
So I think at the heart, we have three pillars at Leeds City Council, and I'll focus really on two of them because I think they cover most of the things, and it's what guides our Labour and Cooperative Administration League. First is the concept of inclusive growth. And inclusive growth is a really important idea that actually the economic growth of the city, the things we invest in, should actually improve the lives of the poorest the fastest. And that actually everything that we do should be geared towards narrowing that gap in the income spectrum, so that actually the poorest communities aren't lagging behind the wealthiest, and that we close that gap. And feeding very much into that is the climate emergency, and in particular about how we maximise the opportunities of being carbon neutral when we declared the climate emergency in Leeds and the biodiversity emergency. How we make sure we bring those high-end, high-skilled jobs into the city to make sure that actually our young people, as Owen said, actually get access to those jobs and have those more secure financial futures. And those two things coupled together actually probably cover the vast majority of what we do at Leeds City Council, because actually it is about ensuring that the next generation gets a better deal than the last generation. And to use the phrase, good leadership, or to paraphrase, good leadership is when old men plant trees of which shade they will never sit under. And actually everything we should be doing should be geared to making sure that the next generation gets a much better deal than we did.
Thank you, Paul. Omar, same question to you.
So basically, the parts of the party that I really like is, so as you can see, as you'll know, Green Party, they kind of led on climate change and just building strong, healthy communities, empowering communities, and the fact of being a smaller party, you're not restricted on, what you can say. You can be that voice. It's like I spoke to one of the deputy leaders, and he was all for it, and that's one thing I like about being. I like the David versus Goliath story. when you're a smaller party, you're not restricted from above. Oh, you can't do this, or you can't do this. The Green Party allows me to do that. If for example, I've helped being protesting with the taxi drivers on an issue, they allow you to do that because, instead of from above saying, yeah, you can't do that, you can't. No. If there's injustice and you believe there's injustice towards your people you're representing, you can protest and you can fight for them. Whether, again, like I said, sometimes you're not going to change the law, but the amount of people that appreciate when you be their voice is unbelievable, because they're like, you know what, yeah, you might not have got it done, but he's our voice. And yeah, and the party allows that, which that's one of the things I really love about the party.
Thank you. Omar, you just stay unmuted. So just take off your prospective councillor hats for this one, okay? What is the favourite thing about the area you're going to be representing? It doesn't have to be councillor-esque.
Oh, what I love about the area that I'm representing?
Yeah.
I just love the diverse community we have. We have different people from different ethnicities. We have people that are it's just such a diverse, amazing community. And honestly, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I love where I live. I will, and I've said this to many people, that I will live, breathe and die in South Leeds because it's home, and home is where the heart is. I've been abroad, I've been on a holiday to a beautiful place, but when you come on the motorway and you see that Hunslet and Beeston turning on the M1, the relief my heart gets when I see that Hunslet and Beeston turning, I'm like, I'm home. And yeah, and that's it really. That's what I love. I just love home. And like I said, that Hunslet and Beeston turning is the best thing in my life. And honestly, it's an honor to, like I said, win or lose, it doesn't bother me. It's just an honor to live where I live, and I enjoy it. And I love my people, and I love the community.
Thank you. Owen, same question to you.
Was it what I enjoy about the area?
What's your favourite thing about the area you're representing?
Similar to home, I love the sense of community. Like, I can walk down the street, and I walk down to Morrison's, which is just down the road in near to Belial. And in the summer, there's a nice summer fair on that I like to go to and watch everyone do. I think they did the boxing thing, I believe, some years, and they play the fair games and the hook to duck games, and I like that kind of sense of community in my area.
Thank you. Councillor Ray, same question to you.
Short and sweet, the people.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I'm going to keep, Councillor Ray, if you can just unmute, I'm going to give you the next question first. So being a councillor takes loads of time to do well. So can I ask how much time you'll commit to being a councillor if elected?
I currently commit between 55 and 60 hours a week, and that will continue. And my main pledge to the electorate is that I will not take on a second paid role or another job or other outside interests that take me away from my core function of being a councillor. It is an all-consuming, life-taking over role, particularly with such large and diverse communities. You need to give it every single second of your time.
Thank you. Omar, same question to you.
Sorry, can you hear me? Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to unmute. The same really. So basically, this would be a dream come true because, you know, you'd be representing people that, you know, vote for you. And I've been in work for many years, 14 years, and the same. I'd become a full-time councillor if it takes, you know, I have to work. I'm not even going to name the number of hours. I want to be available to my people when they need me, and I will actually do it. I will do it full time, and regardless of other interests. Nah, this comes first. My people come first, and I'm going to keep it that. And I promise I'll do that too.
Okay, thank you. Owen, please.
If elected a full-time councillor, I do share what the other two candidates have both said, that I would take the role on full-time. I do go to university, I do continue my studies, but this being a council will come before my studies. I can do my studies a bit later and still remain as a councillor and help represent people who, whilst my studies are what I'm intending to do, I'd rather help out people who obviously need my help and need me to represent them on the Civic Hall or on the local council.
Okay, thank you, Owen. If you just stay unmuted, I'm going to ask you this first. How would you feel about working with councillors in the locality from other parties?
I feel perfectly fine working with councillors. I believe I come across quite friendly. I hope I can get along with quite a few people, and I hope to learn from them as well, because whilst maybe from different parties, we can obviously still learn from each other, and we can not adopt each other's policies, but help each other get those policies. For example, if the XA policy introduced by a councillor in Middleton or Beeston was working really well, I'd feel very happy to ask them, can I possibly use that, or ask if I can use that in my area to see if it might work, see if it translates, or even ask my people who are represented, would this policy be popular? Would you want this in the area? So I think I would be very happy to work with other people of different parties and different councillors.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ray, same question to you.
So where there is shared agendas and common interests, of course, because actually it's about common endeavour. And actually, you look at, and it's on public record, to be fair, you look at the committees I chair, the organisations I'm part of, they are cross-party. I work with councillors from all different political persuasions all the time, but there has to be that common thread of actual common endeavour, and actually you have to be working towards something together, and that has to be the bedrock of it. So absolutely happy to do so, but we also need our independence, so that where we do disagree, that we can actually, as part of that democratic process, have that ability to disagree. So yeah, more than happy to. If there's a common reason, let's do it. I've got a record of doing that across the council and across political parties, many times seen in many committees, and again, helping many organisations in the ward with a varying different set of views.
Thank you. Omar, same question to you.
Oh, hands down, like I was saying, so the ward that I'm in, I believe, has got 3 councillors. So I spoke to the community, and I believe, it's like when letters go out from the councillors, they should come from all 3 together, triple the work, triple the impact. People vote you for them, not for yourselves. So forget, regardless of what party you're for, 3 councillors together, working together, amazing. And I'd love that, because, there's certain things you put aside and you're like, what are we here for? We're here for the people. So yeah, like I was saying, 3 councillors, triple the work, triple the impact. When you're sending a letter out, send it with all 3 of us on, because that's what we're for. And yeah, you have differences, but don't let that get away of helping people, because 3 is always better than 1 and 2, so yeah, 100%.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ray, these questions for you first. With funding cuts, what other ways can you solve some of the issues in the area?
Just quickly before I come on that, the reason why things don't go out in triplicate is because you're not allowed to under council rules, but there we go. So moving on to the actual question that you've asked. is ultimately, in the end, it's actually about facilitating communities to support themselves. Actually, councils are really bad at doing some things and are great at doing other things. And actually, it's about maximising what the council can do to help community groups take on board responsibility, create genuinely sustainable organisations that go forward. And so I spend a lot of time actually not just setting up community groups, but actually helping them understand what their mission is, what they would like to do, how they make that happen, and how actually the council can be extracted from that process so that they have their own unique independence. Now, that's about bringing in partners from multiple different organisations together, making sure that they're cooperating, making sure that there are different accesses to resources, not gatekeeping. There's a lot of gatekeeping that goes on, and actually it's about sharing the information that's available to make sure that those groups have access to it. And I think by a variety of facilitation, bringing different parties together, bringing different interest groups together, you can actually take a lot out of the hands of the council and put it into the hands of the community, where they generally do a better job on a lot of things. There will always be a place for the council, but if we are a great facilitator, that empowers communities to do a lot more well and above beyond the restrictions that are applied to a lot of council resources and powers.
Thank you. Omar, same question to you. With funding cuts, what other ways can we solve some of the issues in the area?
So again, I agree with what Paul's saying, and also the same, just building, using the tools we've got within the community, building community power. And, you know, like I was saying, similar, we've got really amazing people in the community that are talented, that have got really good skills. So like I was saying with one of them, that's the neuropsychologist, you know, she specializes in dementia. So she's, you know, they charge a lot of money when they do, you know, when they help you with the activities. But it was one phone call saying it's for helping out people. You're going to do it for free. And she's like, yeah, of course, what it takes. You know, like I was saying, with solicitors that are in the area, we've got so many. We've got 6 I know. And again, we need advice sessions. We don't have funding to provide advice sessions, but I'm sure you can give 2 days a week, or give 1 day a week, a few hours a week, and they'll happily do it. And again, with businesses that we encourage to give free food away, because again, with funding cuts, but the businesses that are doing well, we can say, look, can you please, you know, help these people out? And yes, so, you know, using the tools we have within the community, and we have amazing tools, believe it or not, we have amazing tools. So yeah, just carry on doing stuff like that, really.
Thank you. Owen, same question to you.
I completely agree with Councillor Ray and the idea that we need to be facilitators for allowing the community to help themselves. Obviously, the community know their area a lot better, and in particular, the idea of responsibility for the area needs to definitely be encouraged. For example, litter. If the litter's really bad, obviously it doesn't take very little time to pick a bit up and just chuck it in the litter bin. Adding more litter bins will not cost, or maybe it may cost the council a little bit of money, but over the long term, it will eventually help us. Also, the idea of bringing private businesses, to have positive talks with private businesses to come to the area to help our young people, to help any age people who just want to have a good job. And I think that will significantly help a lot of people's lives, regardless of funding cuts, as it doesn't cost much to talk to a few people.
Thank you, Owen. Okay, your next question, I'm going to start with Omar, is what are your views about more and more apartment blocks being built in the area, when it's the fact that they are anti-community and mentally bad for family life?
That's a challenge, but I think, you know, if we just got to make the communities work, because if the ones that are especially already built, make them work and possibly help them engage with each other, and, you know, even create, you know, little unions between themselves where they can engage with each other and build that structure. I think if we have certain plans in place, even in apartment blocks, because if you look at stuff internationally, there's a lot of major cities around the world that live in apartment blocks, but they have good community networks. And just, you know, I always say, when someone's doing good stuff, no matter where it is, we can take parts, take what's good, leave what's bad, and then, you know, we can use it. And I think there are many places where I've seen where they have got a lot of community work going on within apartment blocks internationally, and just, you know, take snippets from there and let's apply it to what we have, basically.
Thank you, Omar. Can I ask that to you next, Councillor Ray?
Yeah, sure. And just be warned, the cat and the dog has just entered the room, so you may hear some background noise. It's a tale of two halves, I think, so there are some great innovative apartment blocks we are now bringing into the area. We've just recently approved 2 cohabit complexes, mainly seen in the Netherlands and other parts of Scandinavia, where actually you have one big communal space and multiple flats that connect to that communal space. We're doing a lot of work around that. We're doing a lot of work, I told you the dog was here. We're doing a lot of work around actually trying to change our planning policies. Planning law is hugely restrictive, and it is maximizing, it's designed to maximize in favor of developers. And again, there are plenty of recordings of me at council planning meetings taking developers at task over about how they're going to build in community into their structures. We're going through a policy review at the moment to look at some of this work to basically build these vertical villages. We do need to look at the current build that's there and see how we can correct some of the issues we have. And that's why we're looking at around the pedestrianisation of City Square, the creation of Air Park, which was a significant planning requirement for the new development down near Tetley, and things like that are very key. But there are also some great opportunities with apartment blocks. We have a dire shortage of bungalows in this city. Apartment blocks are vertical bungalows. And I've been campaigning very passionately to make sure that instead of just having a minimum number of properties which are accessible to wheelchairs and mobility scooters, that this should become standard across the piece. We should be having multiple lift setups, and that actually we inbuild the adaptability of apartment blocks to actually meet the needs. And we're certainly seeing in the city centre at the moment the growth of a retirement community where retirees are taking the opportunities of single floor living and having really, really close access to city centre resources. So there are good, there are bad, there are things changing, but there are real potential actually there to really make some sustainable communities if we get those policies right.
Thank you. Owen, same question to you, please.
Well, I'd start by saying that I do agree with Councillor Ray that apartment blocks have their positives and they have their negatives. In particular, they help with homelessness. They help with people who obviously cannot afford a home. I know that cost of living has also raised the price of houses and mortgages in the area, which is definitely a problem for those who are just wanting to get on the property ladder. But I also understand the idea of undermining how families live and how they feel as a community. I think definitely adding more public space for these apartment blocks to come together and to accept themselves as a part of a little village or a community, and to talk and to be good members of each other's communities, really.
Thank you. So the next question is, candidates have talked about the devastation that drugs cause in the community, but the Green Party in particular's policy is to end criminal sanctions for possession and to only have community sentences for importing drugs. How will this help our community tackle drug abuse? And Omar, seeing as your party was called out first, I'm going to go to you first.
I like that. I just felt like I got targeted there.
Again, yeah.
Well, it's quite simple, really. I just think, is the system we have in place that we've had for many years, is it working? You know, I think sometimes you got to think outside the box. We got to, have better rehab facilities, better workshops. I think similar Portugal have done the same. They've changed it. They've got, they're doing something very similar, and it's worked. And I think by doing that, because again, from the South Leeds area, I can name many people that have gone in for similar issues, and they'll come out of prison, they're going again, they're going again, they're going again. So the system we have, it's been going for many years, it's clearly not working. And I think thinking outside the box, still doing work, not saying just let someone, rehab, workshops, targeting it like, targeting things more like that, and then changing the result, because clearly the system we have, it's not working. So if we're going to just carry on doing it, let's think outside the box, and maybe it'll change.
Okay. Carla, I know that was just at the Green Party, but I'm going to ask all the candidates the same question. So, Owen.
Well, the idea of drugs in the areas is definitely a major problem, especially for young people. And I do share Omar's view there that we do need to. The system does sometimes not work properly. We need to encourage young people away from drugs. We need to encourage them to pursue a more sustainable life, not living life as in the fast lane almost. Live it as a long mile to go on. We encourage people to get jobs. We encourage people to start employment. We encourage more jobs in the area. We also need to significantly start policing the area a bit more in terms of cracking down on those people who are smoking marijuana, smoking other types of drugs, particularly giving them fines and letting them know that there is repercussions for your actions. There is definitely repercussions for your actions. You are not able to get away with smoking or doing some form of drugs in the area. And particularly the idea of it doesn't matter anymore is definitely shouldn't be the policy for it, because it has significant issues on your mental health, significant issues on your family life, and truthfully it ruins families. And I think a lot of people do need to see it, and I think advertising campaigns and that the council may be able to support to show children, I know they've done it in the past, to show children the effects of drugs and how they can really affect people.
Thank you, Owen. Paul, Councillor Ray, sorry, same question to you.
I think everything needs to be evidence-led. This is an incredibly complex area of social policy, and it's really as much criminal as it is actually health. And certainly in Leeds, despite the significant budget cuts we've had, we've maintained funding to Forward Leeds, which is a very significantly respected organisation. We continue to fund on local level projects that do intervention work, to continue to support stopping people going into substance abuse. But actually there needs to be a really kind of complex look at overall national policy. National policy is confusing. It isn't consistent. It is punitive in some respects and then lets people get away with others. So actually there needs to be a very root and branch review of drugs legislation in the UK, how that ties into proper health prevention policy, how we ensure that actually we're not criminalising people in young life for poor decisions, but that we're actually providing the proper support networks to make sure that they don't make some of those decisions, but also fundamentally that we actually target where we need to, which is around the really serious drug crime gangs, particularly who are trading in Class A substances. And again, the work with West Yorkshire Police and the Yorkshire and Humberside Serious Crime Team recently seized over £20 million of Class A's in these communities. And so there isn't a short, simple answer. If there was, we wouldn't have an issue with drugs across the entirety of the Western world.
Thank you. So the next question is, and I'm going to ask Owen first, what are your priorities for the city centre part of the ward?
Our priorities would be what the people would like in the city centre. I mean, Councillor Paul has mentioned before the idea of them not feeling part of Hunslet. They are still part of our community. I think we need to encourage that as well, that they're not just the city centre, they are part of our area as well. I know there's particular significant flat build-ups there, and I understand it's becoming very much built up. And I understand that people will feel very disconnected, I think. And I think building more communal areas and encouraging more people to take part as well in community activities and other areas of Hunslet, encouraging that diversity between the different areas, because we have a very diverse community, as previously mentioned. And I think that will significantly help city wards.
Thank you. Councillor Ray, same question to you.
Paul's fine.
I don't know why I keep doing that. Yeah.
No, it's an interesting because there is such a diversity set of the communities. The city centre is actually not kind of one homogenous block. We have some parts of it which are very permanent based. We have some parts of it which are quite transient. And so actually it depends which part of the city centre you're looking at. Certainly one of our priorities, my priorities, has been establishing green spaces. It's why the council very heavily pushed for Air Park as part of the Tetley development, why we worked quite heavily with Canals and Riverside Trust to create Whitehall Pocket Park. I'm looking at plans to potentially, subject to dealing with the antisocial behaviour issues, looking at Penny Pocket Park and how we use that for the community. There are some urban developments coming online where, again, we're looking at the potential of how we use community space there. I think first and foremost, it's understanding that actually these are highly isolated communities in some respect. And it goes back to the previous question, how do we build communities in these areas in a truly sustainable way? We've started to set up residents associations. I think I've set 1 or 2 in the last 12 months in the city centre, etc. So actually that works out through. But actually one of the big things, and it took a lot of work, was making sure officers realised that there was a city centre set of communities. It was very heavily led by the bid. It was very heavily led by city centre management, which was very geared towards businesses. There are tens of thousands of people that live in our vibrant city centre. It is a small town in itself. And so one of my big priorities and ongoing priorities is making sure that residents are at the heart of the decision-making process about how we restructure Leeds City Centre. And as one of the second most significant city in this country, we need to make sure it's not just about the tourists and the businesses, but the people that call it home.
Thank you. Omar?
Again, what Paul said, I totally agree with. You know, it's about the people that call it home, and also the issues that, you know, we've been seeing that the councillors, credit to them, have been backing the cladding issues that they've been having there. And also just, you know, like we was discussing before, people, because a lot of them live in apartments, creating that local resident community hub for them. I think that's very important. And also just, again, when you represent the people, it's asking the people what they want, because they live there, and taking on board the things they want, and maybe, you know, encouraging smaller businesses to be in there instead of just the powerhouses of big businesses being there. And, you know, again, listening. And yeah, basically I agree with what Paul said, and yeah, more or less what Paul said, and just adding to that. And the green spaces, definitely go. And being from the Green Party, we're all green.
Okay, thank you. Omar, if you just stay on for me, I'm going to put this question to you first. Are you confident that you can actively listen to and represent interests of minority groups, including LGBTQ, disabled and BAME residents? Do you have a specific plan around including these communities? Did you get that?
Yeah.
Okay,
like said,
perfect. Off you go.
Like I said, one of the things about our community, it's a diverse community. And it's just, what you've said is just listening to everyone equally, you know, and as long as we listen to our residents, that's what counts. So the main plan is, you know, creating places where we can have that, where they can voice their opinion and you can listen, because as a councillor, we listen, we take notes, and then we will obviously, I'm not saying I'm a councillor, that's not relevant, so and act upon. And, you know, you've got to listen. Without listening, you don't know what people want. And again, that's how we represent different people from the community. From, you know, like you said, that we've got a diverse community, and that and carry on loving having the fact that we've got a diverse community.
Thank you, Omar. Councillor Ray, same question to you.
Short answer is yes, but it's also a bit more than that. You know, again, there's two kind of tales. There's actually the politicians and there's the institutions. And actually, as politicians, it's probably far more easier for us to be able to sit there and listen. Actually, what we need to do is not just make sure those views are heard, but actually that the institution that we are representing, that there's a golden thread which is designed to make sure that it's as open, tolerant, and unbiased as possible, and working that through everything. So as an administration, we've been incredibly proud of making sure we have equality champions in all of our departments, from bin men to the most serious senior officers in the council. There is a golden thread which embodies the need to be as open, tolerant and understanding as possible, because there isn't just one Leeds, there's a variety of Leeds and different backgrounds and different lifestyles and different needs. And sometimes some of those needs and lifestyles can come into conflict. And actually the job of the council and of councillors and of the other institutions is to try and make sure that we navigate those really complex, sometimes conflicts, because we want everybody in the city to feel as proud as we are as an administration, as I am as a resident of Leeds, of being a part of this city and for more people to call it home. So yes, from me, but actually the job of a councillor is significantly more difficult than just listening. It's making sure that our institutions from top to bottom just don't say those words, they live them every day with every decision they make 24/7, 365 days a year.
Thank you. Owen, same question to you.
Well, I obviously believe in, obviously as Paul says, changing how we look, changing how we see things to and make sure everyone can enjoy Leeds just as everyone on this panel can agree they do. In particular, I've focused on the people who have disabilities, particularly encouraging people who can't access, that have private transport, have to rely on public transport with disabilities, encouraging more buses and accessibility that way, so they can go to the city centre on the days and not have to worry about certain times when it's not as busy, because of certain situations. In some cases, this can happen. I pride myself on being very tolerant, and definitely the idea of listening to people, because we need to listen to people to understand what they think and what the issues are. Otherwise, how do we know what the issue? How do we know what the problems are in the area? How do we know how we can change them? And I do agree with Paul in terms of changing institutions, in terms of encouraging all the areas of Leeds to become tolerant, and as there is one Leeds, and we all need to see there's one Leeds, but there's also many different aspects of how we view Leeds.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're on your last question, so you're ready. I know. So I'm going to miss the first bit of this question off, if you don't mind, for the person that answered it. And I'm firstly going to go to Councillor Ray. And it is, do you think the money spent on the cycle lane on Hunslet Road specifically, this was worth it?
Yes, and there's some really straightforward reasons for that. The principle of the cycle lanes is about mainly, and there's a variety of them, but mainly it's about economic opportunity and air quality. And I'll take them both individually. Air quality. Some of the communities in this area die up to 10 years younger, and the primary factor in many of those cases is particulate damage. 52% of all car journeys in Leeds are under 5 miles. Around 25% of all car journeys in Leeds are under 1 mile. Nearly 2/3 of the population of this area do not drive, but they have some of the most significant roads going through it. Even taking a small proportion of those short journeys off-road and onto cycle lanes, some of the time, we're not saying people will get rid of their cars, but to actually have different modal options, not only will reduce air pollution, but it will actually increase road capacity. And as we become an economy more heavily dependent on delivery and delivered services, actually that's important, because unless we decide that we want to start demolishing people's homes, we're a city quickly approaching 900,000 people. We don't have more road space. The second is economic, and I think this is the argument that is significantly missed. In most developed countries in the world, you have a trajectory of travel, which is people walk, they cycle, they motorbike, they drive public transport. We have a big gap, and we know the research shows that there's a large group of people, particularly younger people, that actually are missing out on economic opportunities, education opportunities, socializing opportunities, because actually they get a job on the other side of the river offer, and they get a job offer on this side of the river. This side of the river, unfortunately, at the moment still tends to be a lower paid job offer than the other side of the river. And then they have to spend £75 for a bus ticket and spend 2 hours of their life getting there or back, or spending £300–400 for their car a month because they're a new driver and so they have high insurance premiums. So they take the less paid job, which is ingraining poverty in our communities. Central government doesn't give you £275 million towards an 800,000 kilometre network unless there are really strong economic arguments. So yes, every single penny of it's worth it. It's worth it to reduce mortality rates and reduce respiratory disease rates. And it's worth it to give our young people the opportunity of better paid jobs. We're not expecting to see everybody jump into bikes. That is not the point of them. What we are trying to do is make sure that people have a multitude of options, particularly younger people, so that for the longer journeys, they may take car. For the shorter journeys, they may take bike, and that they have an opportunity to choose what's the best mode of travel, and also to do it safely, because most people that would cycle, that don't cycle currently, say it's because they do not want to be in primary road traffic, because they are scared for their safety. And so we also need to make sure that the road is for everyone, but there's lots of good reasons, and I could probably talk about it for hours.
Thank you. Owen, I'll go to you next.
Well, in terms of the bike path in going into town and the renovations, I believe it's currently near to the Morrisons, near to where down in the Hunslet Penny Hill Centre, I believe they're at now. As a commuter who frequently goes to the city centre, I've seen cyclists ignore the bike paths often enough. I understand Paul's argument there that definitely respiratory illness is definitely a major concern in the globally polluted world. We definitely need to encourage more people to take the bike, but I think particularly we need to encourage. I think the money could also be spent on encouraging more public transport, more electric buses, reducing down, and eventually with more negotiations, reducing down the fares. I know the fares have gone down now to £2 across West Yorkshire for one ticket, which is significantly lower than they were before. I believe they were close enough to £3 or £4, I believe, at one point. Therefore, if we reduce this down and we can put money this way, we can not, instead of spending the money on a bike path, we can also encourage people to travel into the city centre using public transport instead of the car, which can be faster. They can encourage people on definitely economic reasons, as Paul mentioned, to go across the road and to go across the river and to get a better paying job. The bike path, whilst does have its benefits, but I've seen people not use it. I've seen definitely significant roadworks, which people are still using their cars right now. People are still using their cars. They're not fully adopted bikes. I understand Paul's argument that people won't go straight into bikes, but currently the bike path is not really, while it is used sometimes, it's not always used. And therefore, I think encouraging other areas as well, focusing a bit more on the buses, focusing on aiding people in terms of asking the more parking rides we may be able to establish in the area, and remove the air pollution from our city centre and from our area.
Thank you, Owen. Omar, same question to you.
So, as a member of the Green Party, I understand cyclings are important, but also being a person who lives in South Leeds and understands the needs of people, I think we got to accept that it does cause destruction on main roads, and I think possibly we can have things in place like quiet ways that go through the community. But I also feel that we got to look at our people's needs equally. So yes, it is great for your health. I mean, it's great exercise. I did Pedal for Scotland. It was a 50-mile bike ride from Edinburgh, Glasgow for charity. Yeah, very tough. So I'm guessing it keeps you very healthy. But also you got to understand the people, and it's not cheap. Like Paul just said, the amount it costs. And unfortunately, we live in an area where people are going hungry, and I just feel that spending that amount of money where food banks are needed, people are struggling. And I just personally believe that, yeah, again, I agree with cycling, maybe creating quiet ways where it is, but spending, disturbing drivers as a driver myself, on main parts, it's just not. And again, we live in the South Leeds area. We have a lot of people going hungry and spending that sort of money when, we can possibly spend it on food banks. And, so yeah, so again, because we're speaking for the people, aren't we? And I've spoke to the people about this, and this is what I got from the questionnaires I gave out.
Okay, thank you. So that's the end of the questions that we've got in. So I'm going to give you another 2 minutes each to speak, and you can sign off however you would like to. So first of all, I'm going to stick with you, Omar, if that's okay.
Oh.
Yeah, and do the little sign off speech.
Okay, I haven't. Yeah, all this was just at the top of my head, so it might not sound that good. No, it's just simple. Look, I believe in working together. I believe in councillors working together. I believe in listening to the people we represent. I love the fact I'm from the community. I'll be for the community. And I just believe in helping people, from elderly people, helping tackling antisocial behavior. And I genuinely believe that if being a councillor, I want to be a phone call away from the people I represent, and I will fight for them. I'm standing for a party that allows me to not, if I believe injustice is going on, I will happily stand there and fight for it. Again, as a councillor, we can't change the law, but not one of my constituents will say when they need fighting for, or they need someone that can stand up for them, I will be their voice. And I'm not, even if it means I might not have friends in certain departments, but at least the people I represent will know that I'm there. And again, just to help my community, to help the people I work with, and hopefully, if elected, work with other councillors, work together as a primary objective to help people and help the community, empower our people. And again, like I said, if not elected, I'm still going to be knocking on all the councillors' doors, still be attending the meetings, and still be helping people. And that's my primary objective, to do good and to keep my intentions pure, to help people and make the beautiful, my community where we live, a better place. Like I said, I'm South Leeds through and through. South Leeds till I die. And that's it.
Thank you. Councillor Ray, would you like to go next?
So this election is a choice about the influence these communities want to have in the places where decisions are made. My record over the last 5 years speaks for itself, with significant additional investment into these communities, despite austerity, despite the pandemic, due to sheer will of force of making sure that we had a full-time representative banging our drum 24/7, 365 days a year, and being someone that not just the public sector or the private sector or the charity sector trust, but someone that the residents trust. And over the course of the last 5 years, I have dealt with tens of thousands of resident queries. We are complex communities. There isn't one Hunslet, there isn't one Beeston, there isn't one Leeds City Centre. There are 33,000 people with varying interests and conflicting interests. And the job of a local representative is to try and bring those communities together. I've demonstrated a record of that over the last 5 years. I will continue to do so with the same energy, drive and passion I have over the next 4 if re-elected. And to make sure that actually your priorities are my priorities, and that the people that make the decisions, me being one of them because I'm part of the administration, hear that, and that your views are heard where they need it. There is no point in having a party of protest, because that doesn't change anything. You need to be in the rooms where those conversations are happening. I will be in those rooms. I will be banging the drum of these communities as I have done over the last 5 years. And if re-elected, I will continue to deliver that investment, deliver on my promises and my pledges to the people of Hunslet, Beeston and Leeds City Centre.
Thank you. Owen.
I reflect the two views of my peers here my fellow candidates here talking about being representative. I really do want to represent the community to which I grew up in. I grew up at school. I went to all the schools here. I've shopped in nearly every shop I think they have in the area, and I want to encourage local businesses to come to the area, to give young people like myself, like old people, and anyone who wants a job at local community, so they don't have to travel across the river, as previously mentioned. They can get a job that pays exactly the same as it does in the city centre locally. They don't need to worry about public transport. They don't need to worry about this. It's a walk away. And for those who have disability accesses or have issues with travel, I want to build the tools for them to easily get there without having an issue. I also want to encourage people to become part of this larger community in Hunslet. We are definitely a diverse group. We have a good community as it is, but I feel we need to build it up and have a more sense of community. And obviously I understand Paul's point that you need to be in the room to have the decisions. I will try my very best at the time to give every single decision, every single issue raised to me. I will protest whilst it does not make a difference. At least I wish to try and make a difference. I will continue to fight for you if elected, and that's all I have to say. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. So that comes to the end of these hustings for Hunslet and Riverside. Thank you everybody for coming in to watch and the candidates for answering the questions. Just to remind you, this was hosted by South Leeds Life, and you can sponsor or subscribe to us. If you hit the website or the Facebook page, you can find out how that happens. This will be posted on Facebook as well as YouTube, so people can watch back. So please share it with anyone in your area that might have missed it tonight. And thank you very much. Good luck to the candidates. And everybody can sign out.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for me as well. It's
Bye.
been really interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye bye.
guys. And Paul
Bye-bye.
is going.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers, buddy. Well done.